Alright, today I want to go over Cody's buttons. Well, I want to go over Cody's neutral game outside of V-Trigger. I guess I'll briefly brush over his V-Trigger neutral after I cover his regular neutral, but for the most part, Cody has not the best buttons. People already know this, but it's important to know which buttons you have to use in which situations and what are the best ones to go for. And in this game in particular, a lot of different buttons are beaten by different things. So there's not a one-size-fits-all answer for most characters. Even characters with really good buttons, like Akuma's standing medium kick, won't work against everything. So there are like it is important to look at, if you're having trouble with any particular moves that you're struggling to find answers for, it is important to just go into training mode, look, test stuff out, and see what moves have, good hitboxes, hurtboxes that'll usually win out against those other moves. But in general, there's a few different types of moves that you can categorize and then treat similarly. So first I'll just run through the list of the most common types of moves that you'll have to know how to deal with, and which different buttons will deal with better or worse. So first we have certain moves, a lot of crouching medium punches, especially ones that animate like this, with the character pushing forwards, like Akuma's crouching medium punch, Ken's crouching medium punch, Ryu's crouching medium punch, Balrog's crouching medium punch, Guile's crouching medium punch, etc. All these moves look somewhat similar, and they have common traits. They're fairly short range, they have a lot of active frames, and they hit pretty low to the ground, but not like low medium kick low, just at the lower end of the waist. And most of those have very similar hurtboxes and hitboxes. For the sake of clarity, I'll just give a made-up name to each type. So let's call this a shove move. Next, I want to talk about these types of moves. Really short-ranged moves with a lot of active frames and good personal hurtboxes that have massive, just absolutely massive hitboxes, hit the entire area, and are usually very good for stuffing the opponent on the startup of their moves. These are usually defensive moves that will beat out a lot of other moves. Like so. Used for whiff punishing or beating out other moves on startup. They're not particularly long-ranged. Well, Akuma's is, so he can use his to whiff punish. But other than that, they're used for stuffing attacks that are meant to poke. So because of that, I will call these invitation moves. Then we have moves that have pretty decent or long range and hit fairly high up, usually to the point where they hit so high up that they will no longer hit low enough to hit crouching limbs or normals like that. I will don these high pokes. Then we have certain crush counter limbs that have decent to long range and do not have a particularly large number of active frames. They're not meant for, like a lot of crush counter buttons, they're not meant for swinging and then generating a crush counter when it touches any other smaller, lighter buttons on startup, like Balrog standing heavy kick would, for example. Like so. These are meant to generate crush counters by making contact. I'll simply refer to these as crush moves. And moves like Balrog's standing hard kick or Akuma's crouching hard punch that act like walls that just generate crush counters when they're poked into, I'll call those invitation crushes. There are usually two different types of low-medium kicks, because some low-medium kicks act as low profiles and have very good personal hurtboxes, and some do not. So for Ken and Ryu, theirs are the ones that do have good personal hurt boxes, and therefore aren't beat out by these sorts of moves when they use them, because their hurtboxes are really far back and really low to the ground. Whereas there are some low-medium kicks that won't have those good personal hurtboxes when used and will get stuffed easily by these sorts of, high pokes like this. So these lows that have good personal hurtboxes and are low profiles, let's call these safe lows. And the other type, let's call them unsafe lows. Cammy's crouching medium kick and Falk's crouching medium kick are examples of those. Then we have one of the most common types of buttons, just mid pokes. Pokes that have decent to long range and don't hit particularly low to the ground, so that they won't hit safe lows, but they'll hit unsafe lows. And they don't hit particularly low enough to miss against anything. They're just good all-around buttons to use in neutral that hit at a moderate, that have moderate hurtboxes that, hitboxes that, hits enough space and doesn't have any problems. So these are mid pokes. Then we have some moves that particularly specialize in beating lows, like Cammy's crouching medium punch and Colleen's crouching medium punch, that just sort of eat up any low medium kicks or low attacks that hit them, have a lot of active frames, and just beat them out in most situations. So let's call these anti-low moves. Beyond that, there's also extra high poke moves, or moves that like either only hit standing opponents or have farther range against standing opponents. A lot of standing hard kicks, Alex's lariat, Ken's standing medium kick, Ed's standing medium kick, things that hit extra high that usually crouching moves are a bit better against. And beyond that, there's also like weirder moves and things that you have to take unique considerations for, like Rashid's crouching hard punch or Falk's standing hard punch, that just have weird interactions that need to be looked at by themselves. But for the most part, those are all the buttons that you'll run into and need to know how to deal with. So finally, back to Cody. His neutral game, a lot of his neutral game is not reliant, but his tornado sweeps definitely help. Especially for locking down the opponent long enough to get in with EX Zonk. So long as they block it, it's a free way in. So on. His tornadoes do very little damage. They actually do some of the lowest damage for projectiles in the game. So you can use them to beat limbs, because close range fireballs, like especially like Rashid's fireball or Ken's fireball, are not made for zoning. They're made for catching people pressing buttons in about this range, in the mid-range, a lot of the time. So if say like Ken has kind of stubby buttons, so if Ken has trouble dealing with a character with better buttons like Cammy, he can instead just choose to throw a fireball, and if the Cammy player presses any buttons into that fireball in this range, she'll get hit. So he can use the fireball as a footsies tool, a risky footsies tool, to try to stop the opponent from pressing buttons if that character's buttons are worse. Cody can do this, but he's worse at it than like Rashid or Ken, because his fireball does less damage, and it's also not great on hit. Cody's EX Tornado Sweep is good, but it hits very quickly. Once it's blocked, there's almost no blocks done there, which means it's also difficult to combo off of if you happen to get a hit. Beyond that, just general rules for Cody's buttons. His best buttons in neutral are, in no particular order, standing medium punch, crouching medium punch, standing hard punch, crouching hard punch, standing light punch, standing light kick, and standing medium kick and crouching medium kick. And then his other buttons, like standing hard kick, that are used to sort of like look for crush counters if the opponent's getting too buttonsy, go over lows pretty well, beat projectiles fairly well, stuff like that. And his forward hard kick, which has really bad startup, but it's very easy to hit confirm into the follow-up. So, as far as you need to know, Cody's standing medium punch is the one that is the medium button that is the most rewarding on hits. It's not necessarily the best, it won't win the most often, but it is the most rewarding, because you can buffer it into all those actions from really far away. Whereas crouching medium punch doesn't have as much hit stun when cancelled, and cancels from further away, so it doesn't link into those things from as far as standing medium punch does. It's often even a better idea if you're using crouching medium punch to try and buffer it into Zonk instead, because Zonk will combo from further away. If you're cautious about the opponent using a lot of, when you're just playing neutral, if the opponent's pressing a lot of buttons, usually your best answers are standing light kick, standing medium kick, and standing heavy punch. Standing heavy punch being one of the best. It's an invitation move, like Akuma's standing medium kick, but it also hits farther than Akuma's standing medium kick, and it has more priority since it's a heavy button. Has a lot of active frames, and this thing just eats up other buttons in neutral, other footsie buttons. If they're pressing them in any range, you can just buffer standing heavy punch, and it will just destroy those things. However, it whiffs for fairly long time. It whiffs for literally the same number of frames as hard kick whiffs for, which is 21 recovery frames. It's not enough that you'll get jumped in on. Like his fireballs have 39 total frames, and standing heavy punch has like 30, say, 28 total frames. So you should still be able to anti-air and things. Like, it's not going to be too bad. But if you're wary of the opponent trying to whiff punish you or do things like that, you can't always be throwing out standing heavy punch. So it's important to also use light kick a lot and his other medium buttons with an understanding of what the opponent's buttons are and how to beat them. So, going through each type of move that I already listed off. For shove moves like this, Cody can. His cleanest options against these moves are standing medium kick, standing heavy punch, and crouching heavy punch. As a general rule of thumb, crouching heavy punch is okay. It doesn't hit as far as standing medium punch, but its hurtbox and hitbox makes it a little better in some situations. Crouching heavy punch is usually really good against moves that do not have a lot of range themselves, and don't hit so low that, because this won't hit safe lows, this won't hit low profile crouching medium kicks, but other than that, if the opponent's move doesn't have very much range, you can swing this out and it usually works pretty well. Better option to go for would be, so you can always, standing light kick is really good just all around. It's kind of absurd how good it is. And you can just whiff punish a lot of things really quickly, get a knockdown like that. If you're this close, if you're too far away, it won't combo into the medium ruffian kick, but like if you're in this range or whatever, you can just buffer it all day. The only risk that you run using standing light kick, it's great against most things, but it can struggle against some moves that have a lot of active frames or some invitation crush counter buttons. So be wary when the opponent's trying to use those. So yeah, standing medium kick is a great button. It doesn't whiff for very long. And it actually whiffs for only like 2 frames more than standing light kick does. A lot faster recovery than his medium punches, things like that. And this wins against most buttons. But the safest options to go for against most buttons, especially shove moves like this, you can whiff punish with the standing light kick. But the button that will lose the least often is standing heavy punch. And then if you're risking trades for or getting hit for doing this, but you can also do your own medium punches like standing medium punch and crouching medium punch, but you risk winning as often as you risk losing for that. As a general rule of thumb, crouching medium punch whiffs for less time and is less risky than standing medium punch. And will beat things that hit like higher into the air a lot of the time. So it's safer but often less rewarding than standing medium punch. Anyways, next we have invitation type moves. Because Cody's heavy punch is also an invitation type move, and his is just better than most of the others in the game, his will win like every time. But like I said, crouching heavy punch does especially well against moves that have very short range. So it's pretty good at beating invitation type moves like this. Like so. And Cody's crouching medium punch has pretty good active frames and beats a lot of things that sort of poke into it, so it's not bad at beating these either. A lot better than, like, say, standing medium punch, which can get whip punished and beat out on startup a lot more than standing medium or crouching medium punch ever would. Beyond that, other moves that can win some of the time, just depends on the timing, is standing light kick, which can beat everything. Standing medium punch, which can whip punish it, and standing medium kick. Yeah, like I already said, if you don't know what button to go for, the safest option that has the most chance of winning, that's the least committal, is standing medium kick. You don't want to do standing hard punch all the time, like I said, because it whiffs for a long time, which leaves you more susceptible to certain things, but standing medium kick is a pretty good no-risk option that beats most buttons in the game fairly easily. Next, we have high poke type moves, such as Akuma's standing medium punch, Guile's back hard punch, Cammy's standing medium kick, Ken's standing medium punch, Ken's standing heavy punch, Ryu's standing medium kick, Guile's Sobot kick, so on. Once again, heavy punch will eat these things up. Standing medium kick has Cody's upwards hurt box. It doesn't really go very far unless it's whiffing, so standing medium kick usually a pretty good option against these buttons. And high pokes are not like mid pokes, so they will lose to most crouching medium kicks. For these high poke buttons, standing medium punch is actually a better option than crouching medium punch. Standing medium punch is more likely to win. Although it's not likely to win, it's just like random. Because this is also a high poke. But if you get a whiff punish or beat out on startup or something, standing medium punch has a better chance of winning. Crouching medium punch will usually just lose. And like most buttons, you can whiff punish with standing light kick. Then we have crush moves, like Akuma's standing heavy punch, or Rashid's standing heavy punch, or Balrog's standing heavy punch. These moves are always risky. Crush counter moves are always kind of trying to deal with them. But usually, like, you can just try and whiff punish them, and it's not too much of a problem if they're whiffing. But if you don't want to risk the crush counter, you can go for standing heavy punch again. Standing heavy punch can actually lose against these buttons, which it won't to most other buttons. But or get trades like that a bunch. But yeah, it's at least you won't get crush countered. Then we have invitation crushes like this. Like the other things, you can try and whiff punish it. But if you want a safe fish option, you can use crouching heavy punch. Although, crouching heavy punch will, like, it's a button, so it can get crush countered by these things. And standing heavy punch is usually a bit safer. Then we have safe lows, like Kuma's crouching medium kick. So Ken's crouching medium kick, Ryu's crouching medium kick, Rashid's crouching light kick and medium kick, and Guile's crouching medium kick. So there's not a lot of things that beat this out. Cody isn't, outside of V-Trigger, Cody doesn't have moves that are super long ranged enough to really win against these. If you're pretty close, you can beat them with stand light kick, because stand light kick won't lose to lows. But not at a range where you can really buffer safely. You can just sort of poke with it and win. No, but Cody's best option for beating any type of lows is standing medium kick, which will just eat all lows for breakfast. Oh, what the? Oh, crap. That probably means the first part of this doesn't have audio, right? Eh, whatever. Doesn't matter much. Mid pokes with, like most things, you can whip punish with light kick. Against mid pokes, crouching medium punch is gonna win more often than standing medium punch is. And standing heavy punch as a buffer. And then the other buttons will, like, win or lose as often as they, yeah. Crouching heavy punch is not a great option to go for against these. Standing medium kick is okay. And standing heavy medium punch is okay. Anti-low moves like this, needless to say, but don't try and use crouching medium kick. Thankfully, these don't have very long range, like, they won't extend their personal hurt boxes very far, but thankfully these don't beat out many things other than lows, so you can buffer if you're pretty close, you can buffer things and win fairly easily. I should mention, though, standing hard punch is amazing, but it doesn't work well against things that hit fairly low to the ground. So anything that hits lower than, like, a shove move like this, like an anti-low move or an actual low move, standing hard punch won't really do anything about it. But standing hard punch's hurt box still extends down there, so it's pretty, like, don't go for it against those sorts of moves. Standing light kick, crouching heavy punch, standing medium kick. And then finally we have unsafe lows. So unsafe lows, much easier to deal with than safe lows. Again, you can just bully these with standing medium kick. But most buttons in your arsenal will beat unsafe lows. So standing medium punch. Standing heavy punch. Crouching heavy punch. Crouching medium punch. Standing light kick. So that's the essence of it. If the opponent isn't pressing like that many buttons in neutral and you're worried about not whiffing things for too long, the recovery on all of his moves is as follows. Standing light punch has the least recovery. I would recommend it going for it if you're worried about the opponent forward dashing. Very often. See, if you do light kick, it's fine, but light punch is actually a little bit better. It recovers faster. It has more active frames than crouching light punch. Crouching light punch has just as much recovery as standing light kick, actually. It's just that you can rapid cancel it. And standing light punch will let you convert if you hit them doing a forward dash better than the other ones will, because you can hit it into the target combo. You can mash it out if you see them forward dash into your light punch. You can mash out the target combo to punish them. And standing light punch is a very non-committal move. It has, like I said, it has more active frames than crouching light punch, so it's actually better despite it having less range if you're worried about the opponent forward dashing into it. Medium kick, very good move to go for. Doesn't whiff for very long. Beats most buttons. Heavy punch is really good to go for if your opponent's pressing a lot of buttons, or you're sure they're going to press a button, or moving forward in any way. This will usually beat most of the opponent's footsie buttons as a buffer. Crouching heavy punch has its uses. Crouching heavy punch is a lot better in trigger though. It beats a lot more buttons and it has more range. So yeah, standing light punch recovers for 7 frames. Crouching light punch for 10 frames. Standing light kick for 10 frames. Crouching light kick for 8 frames. That's also a good just poke check. It has good range. It won't convert into anything, but it's still a decent check on the opponent. Standing medium punch recovers for 16 frames. Crouching medium punch for 13 frames. Standing medium kick for 12 frames. Crouching medium kick for 15 frames. Standing heavy punch, crouching heavy punch, and standing heavy kick, all 21 frames. And crouching heavy kick, 27 frames. Regular fireballs, 49 frames. And then EX Fireball, 45 frames. I may have said 39 frames before, that's incorrect. So yeah, that's the essence of it. Medium kick, crouching medium punch, and light kick and light punch are your safest options to go for if you're not sure what the opponent is doing. And if you're more confident in what they're doing, you can choose the most appropriate buttons to deal with it. And if you're sure they're not like forward dashing or jumping a lot, you can go for the more committal moves and things to really bully whatever they're doing on the ground. And that's just outside of his ability to also throw tornadoes and lock down, whip in with EX Zonk, that sort of thing. Or check the opponent with a big heavy kick, or look for a hit confirm with forward heavy kick. So yeah, that is the essence of footsies with Cody. That's the most of what you need to know. And like I said, if you run into any problems with any other buttons or things you need to be worried about, just take it to the lab and see what works.